We've all heard of the Black Dahlia. We've all seen the bloody pictures. But did you know the secret? She has a secret. The secret is she could not have sex. So how is it possible that this woman was such a prostitute that used men, that was a whore, a nobody, a dime girl, using men after men after men? How is it possible that she did that when she was not even developed downstairs? So the question isn't who did it. We may never know. The question is, who was the Dahlia? Her real name is Elizabeth Short. So let's start at the beginning and let's find out why she came here, how she got here, and maybe what is the reason behind her behavior. Let's start at the beginning. Elizabeth Short was born in Hyde Park, Massachusetts, to her father Cleo and her mom Phoebe. She was the third of 5 children. Now her father, what he did for a living is he built miniature golf courses. But in 1929, when the stock market crashed, so did he. So what Cleo did is that he took his car to the nearby river bridge and left his car there and presumed to have jumped off the bridge because he lost all of his money in the stock market. Now, because of this, he left his 5 children and his wife alone, and the mom had to go get a store job as a librarian. Years later, Leo decided that he missed his family, and he wrote a letter to his wife saying, "I miss my family." And she said, "I want nothing to do with you. How dare you do that and desert us?" But when Elizabeth turned 18, you know how teenagers are, she decided she wanted to go live with her father. Her father lived in San Francisco, California. Coincidentally, he was located nearby the shipping yard out there. Now, this is 1942. In December of 1941, we were attacked by Japanese at Pearl Harbor. So all of the men in 1942 ran to enlist to be a soldier to fight for our country. Luckily for Elizabeth, being 18 years old, she is located right near the shipping yard with a lot of eligible bachelor soldiers, and she had a thing for men in soldier suits. Now, Elizabeth fell in love with her fiance. So Elizabeth got engaged to Matthew Gordon, and she was just waiting for the days that he would come back, praying that nothing would happen to him. Now, Matthew Gordon was a pilot, and he was flying over the Indian Ocean during the war. As she waited for him, right when the war, 2 weeks before the end of the war, she got a telegram that said he was shot down and killed. This devastated Elizabeth. Now, this is just me talking off the record, but a lot of times what happens is there are certain things that happen in our lives that mold and make a foundation of who we are. And maybe, this is my opinion, but Elizabeth Short seemed to have been abandoned several times by men. Her father left her, then Gordon, he gets shot down, and sometimes in life, little tiny things can happen to us that literally make us snap. Maybe, this is just my opinion, maybe it threw her to the other side, meaning she doesn't want to get attached to men. So maybe this is where she has the ability to just use men. Now, besides the word use, just keep in mind in 1940s, 50s, 60s, women really weren't able to be independent. If you lived alone and had a job and lived in an apartment, you would be considered a weirdo. So, it's not that easy for a woman to just go out and get a job. So maybe with Elizabeth, it was easier just to use men. Now, by using them and not getting attached, it's easier to do this, so you can sleep at night. Now, Elizabeth, after Matthew Gordon died, she went a little bit on a rampage. And she actually was by another base in Santa Barbara, and she got arrested for being at a bar at underage. That is the famous mugshot that we always see where she actually looks very pretty. That is her mugshot because she was in a bar and underage. They told her to go back home, which somehow she diverted and went to Florida. And then when she went to Florida, she met Fling. So she now had another beau, but she wasn't attached. So he actually was her new boyfriend, and that started the trend where she was getting used to having people help her, boys, men, help her and pay. Now, what we know in history and what everybody says is that she was a call girl. She was a whore, and she had tricks. I mean, she was living in Hollywood in these 2-bedroom apartments with 8 women that were all doing the same thing. They had to literally pay $1 a day per head. Many times she was kicked out of apartments because the manager said that she was bringing in men over men over men, and he didn't like it, so she got kicked out. There are other times that she simply had to pack up and leave in the middle of the night because she didn't even have $1. So here's where it gets a little odd. If she is in fact tricking, using men, having Johns, doing those things to get food in her belly or drink, then riddle me this, Batman. How is she doing that if she cannot even have sex? She was unable to have sex. Her bottom part never, ever fully developed. She was incapable of having penetration of any kind. Now, naturally, there's other things you can do, but literally, she could not have sex. So how is it that she was, quote unquote, whoring around or tricking if she couldn't even do that? Now, let's keep in mind another important fact. The reason that she's so famous is because she is a face that we can put to the many stories and women and other people that were down and out. What happens is that the silver screen glamorized everything. We think everything is glamorized because we see it in the movies and everything is peachy keen, but the reality is there were people down and out. There were people that were homeless, that couldn't afford to buy food, and it was just after the Depression and after the war. So she is a face that we put to all the other many faceless people. Now, what happened to her was beyond recognition, was so out of the realm. It's like a Jack the Ripper. Okay, what happened to her is they precisionally cut her in a way as if it was a doctor. They drained all of her blood. She didn't even have blood in her. So somebody performed this, cut her, beat her, probably for a week, and then they had to take her body one piece at a time and dump it into the field. Okay, now back in those days, everyone was a little bit corrupt. The press were in the pocket of the police. The police were in the pocket of the press. So when the body was found, when Elizabeth's body was found in the field, everybody, the press was there trampling all over it. So a lot of evidence was lost. In fact, her shoes and purse were actually thrown in a dumpster and threw away. Until later on, somebody had to say, hey, her purse is in a dumpster, and they had to go track it down. So they did actually get her shoe, and they did get her purse. And whoever had dumped her body poured gasoline all over that so they could have no trace of her. Then later, there was an envelope that was sent to the police department with her belongings, her passport, her ID, and that too was all doused with gasoline. So who did it? We don't know, but I don't think it was just one of the run-of-the-mill kind of, people or a John that got mad because he couldn't get his way. I think this was something so much bigger. We cannot forget that just because the silver screen glamorized Hollywood, it doesn't mean there was a lot of underbelly, dungeon type parties and all kinds of kinky, weird stuff going on. There And I wanted to tell this story that she couldn't have sex. It's kind of weird. That's what she was known for. I mean, she was so down and out that the coroner found that her teeth were so decayed that she had wax in it to make her teeth look fake. This is a 20-year-old woman. This is somebody who's had a rough life, and she was very, very young. So I just wanted to tell this story. I hope you enjoy it. Please like and subscribe. I like to do historical documentaries. This one I did not run around and go do, but it's a story that I kind of wanted to tell. So thank you for listening.